for my birthday this year, I just wanted to create an experience that, I would never forget. And as someone who has always kind of depended on the decisions of others and kind of what other people wanted to do, I really wanted to spend my birthday doing exactly what I wanted to do. And so I decided that going on a trip by myself internationally was the way that I wanted to spend my birthday, or celebrate my birthday. Welcome to Favor in Beauty, the podcast where we acknowledge beauty that turns heads, but we really dive deep into beauty that turns hearts. And I am your host, Jenaé. Excited to be here for episode 8. This is a special episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that my background is a little bit different. And that's because I am in Curaçao celebrating my 40th birthday. And I'm here by myself. I took a solo trip. So I wanted to continue recording the podcast because we have a rhythm here. So I'm recording where I am. And so I'm excited about this episode. It's all about solo travel. But before I get into that, let's do a recap of last week's episode where I talked about letting go. And I shared about my daughter and her health condition and how, that has been impacting our lives and how that has been weighing on me in terms of the amount of worry that I have been carrying about her condition and her future and all of those things, and how I have just decided to let it go and to, simple as that, let it go. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please go do so and let me know what you think. And with that, we'll get into this week's episode. So our first segment is called Beauty is Their Name. So this segment celebrates someone who's showing up beautifully in the world. This could be someone that I know, someone who is a complete stranger, but it's someone who deserves to be celebrated. And so today, this is someone that I don't know, but I have been following for quite some time. And her name is Dr. Takia Robinson. And so she is one of the hosts of one of my favorite podcasts called Getting Grown. And I started listening to their podcast probably 5 or 6 years ago. And one of the things that I really love about Dr. Takia or Dr. Kia is that she is who she is. She's herself. And when I started listening to the podcast, I knew Black women who had doctoral degrees, but they were much older than me. And so she is someone around my age who has a doctoral degree, and she is just very unapologetically herself. Like, she wears, wow. Sorry if y'all heard that in the background. But she wears braids and nails, and she, talks very candidly. She is who she is. And so I really value that about her. And there are a lot of other things that we have in common. Like, we're both church kids. And if you are a church kid, you know that you just grow up having a very different type of life and different experiences. And so people who have those same experiences, you just connect with. She speaks very well. She's also, she used to work in higher ed. And so that there was a connection there as well. But I just love the way that she expresses herself. She is very vulnerable on their podcast and talks about some of the things that she has gone through. She loves beauty. She's very good at doing makeup. And so that's something that, I really admire about her, that although, she was in academia and she is a doctor, she really taps into her creative side, which is something that I also value. So shout out to Dr. Kia. I'll link her social media somewhere so you can find her, and I'll also link their podcast. All right, so let's get into the chair. So the chair is our topic segment, and during this segment, if you go to the chair, if you go to the beauty salon, you go to the barbershop, you go to the nail salon. When you sit in the chair, you know that it's about to go down, right? You know you're about to get a service. You know you're about to look good. You're about to feel good. And once you leave, you're going to leave with something of value. And so that's what I hope you experience once you leave the chair. So welcome to the chair. So today, like I said before, we're going to talk about solo travel. It's something that I've always wanted. Well, I won't say always wanted to do, but for over the past couple years, I've wanted to do. And there are so many stigmas attached to solo travel. And so I just want to talk about what motivated me to travel by myself, and then also debunk some of the myths that people have about traveling solo. So I just wanted to share a few statistics before we get started. So according to solo travel statistics of 2023, or in 2023, there's been an increase of solo travel within the last few years. I think it was like a 42% increase. And then solo travel accounts for 11% of all travel, and 84% of solo travels are women, which I thought was really cool and interesting at the same time. I wonder what that's about. But anyway, let's get into what motivated me to travel solo. So I've always loved to travel. So I'm from the United States. I'm from Virginia. So I've loved to travel within the United States and also abroad. So I've been to Germany, I've been to London, I've been to Jamaica, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Canada, and a bunch of states, in the United States. And then, just with that, I realized that, and in those experiences, there's so much in the world to see. There's so much in the world to experience. People, we can get in our little bubble, and so our own state or our own city, and just kind of stay there. But there's just so much to experience in the world. And, there's so many other cultures and so many other languages and food and customs and things that we can experience. And so I have always wanted to travel. I've been traveling probably, the first time I ever actually got on a plane wasn't until college. But since then, I've been wanting to go as many places that I can go. And that is kind of where I am right now. So another reason, or another motivation for me was, this is a milestone. So when you actually hear this, it will be my 40th birthday, which is obviously a milestone. And for my birthday this year, I just wanted to create an experience that, I would never forget. And as someone who has always kind of depended on the decisions of others and kind of what other people wanted to do, I really wanted to spend my birthday doing exactly what I wanted to do. And so I decided that going on a trip by myself internationally was the way that I wanted to spend my birthday, or celebrate my birthday. And so that was another reason that motivated me. It's a milestone, and what better time to do it than now? Another reason is because I needed a change of pace. So on a daily basis, I have a lot to do. I have to take care of myself, obviously. I am a mother. I'm a single mother. And although I have help, the day-to-day, is left up to me. I work. I have to take care of her. She does activities. I have things going on. And so there's a constant kind of going. And, I don't have any issues sleeping at night. Let me just make that clear. I go to bed fine. But it's different when you actually get to rest for an extended amount of time. And one of the things that is a goal of mine is to travel internationally at least once every year, and not necessarily by myself, but just to get away and to, again, change that pace. And everybody needs a vacation. So if you are thinking about a vacation, take the vacation. All right. And then the other reason that motivated me to travel solo is this is kind of like the culmination of my healing journey. So over the past 2 years, I have been like going in terms of like really working on myself and trying to figure out who I am and trying to figure out what I want to do and trying to clean out a lot of the stuff that was kind of packed down in there for my whole entire life. And that was a lot of work. And I spent a lot of time by myself. And I realized that, it's just a phase. I don't want to be by myself forever. I don't want to always be by myself. But I realized that this was a necessary phase for me in this healing journey. And so going on a trip by myself was kind of like the culmination. It kind of brought everything together, and it was very on brand and on theme to what I have been going through over the past couple years. So those were the reasons I was motivated to travel solo. And then there are a lot of myths about solo travel. Like I said, there's just a lot of stigma. Like, why would you want to go on a trip all by yourself? And so I did some research to find like the common myths to debunk them with you. So one of the first ones is that it's dangerous. So I'm from the United States. I'm from Virginia. And if you know, the United States is dangerous. I think that a lot of places in the world are dangerous. And just because you're traveling, that doesn't mean that you're in more danger just because you're in another place. One of the things that I was really adamant about is I did my research. I did a lot of research, and I wanted to come to Curaçao because I watched a lot first of all, there's not a lot of crime in Curaçao. It's a very small island. I watched other people's, YouTube is such an amazing resource. So a lot of women have traveled to Curaçao by themselves. So I watched those videos. I read articles. They speak English in Curaçao. They also speak Spanish, and Papamiento is another language that they speak here. But English is the main language. Well, I wouldn't say the main language, but most people speak English. And so I would be able to, and have been able to communicate, if I needed to. So it's not, I think you have to use wisdom, of course. You have to be aware of your surroundings and kind of what's happening around you. But I don't think, depending on the place, that it's any more dangerous than, being at home. So I have felt safe the whole time I've been here. I'm not out at crazy times of the night or anything like that. I'm not hanging out or doing anything crazy. So I feel like I've been playing it pretty safe. I rented a car so that so they don't have Uber or Lyft here. And so I don't want to be like in and out of taxis by myself. So I rented a car. So I park in a garage that's very close to my resort. and it's well lit. It's security everywhere. So there hasn't been a moment where I felt unsafe. So the fact that solo travel is dangerous, it could be dangerous, but we can debunk that myth if you do your research and you just, play it smart about, what you're doing and what your surroundings are. Another myth is it gets lonely. So I enjoy my own company, right? So it hasn't always been like this. Tell you a quick story. So in college, I went to Hampton University for undergrad and I was in the marching band. And so as a freshman, well, everybody has to attend band camp, but I was starting school as a freshman and I was going to band camp. And so you have to go to band camp, of course, before school actually starts. And so you have to stay in a dorm. So I had to go to school maybe like 2 weeks before school actually started. And the dorm that we were staying in, you had the choice to either stay by yourself so you could get a single room, or you could have a roommate. So everybody else, well, not everybody else, but the majority of people wanted a single room, because you want to be by yourself. But me, I wanted a roommate because my parents were leaving me and I did not want to be by myself. And so I had a roommate for band camp, and we were like the only people it was 3 of us, and we were like the only people in this who wanted to, room with other people. But so I haven't always been this way, but right now I enjoy my own company, and I don't see anything wrong with being by myself, but I'm also not alone. So I'm staying in a resort. There are people everywhere I've gone so far. There are people there. You can easily spark up a conversation with someone if you are craving that social interaction. I went to the beach today and I was talking to this older lady from Wales. She was so sweet. And then if you get lonely, you can call or text your family, So the fact that it's lonely just because you're traveling solo, we can debunk that myth as well. And of course, you're not there forever. You're going to eventually go back to your destination. Go back to your original place or your home. So, you're not going to, even if you are lonely, you're not going to be lonely forever. So it's scary. So it can be scary. And as someone who has a little bit of anxiety, we're getting much better with it. I will say, thank God. It can be scary. You're traveling. Well, in my case, I traveled out of the country by myself to a place I had never been before. And I was a little nervous. I didn't know, obviously, what to expect. But I got over it. And I think one of the things about fear is you have to do it anyway, right? And so you might get anxious. You might have a little bit of nerves going on, but just like you are anxious at home or where you're from, you do it anyway. So just because you're traveling solo, you would that still applies essentially. So I went to the beach 2 days ago, and I wanted to go to this beach that is really scenic and small and didn't have a lot of people there. And so it was like a 40-minute drive away from my resort. And so that made me kind of anxious, because I'm going out kind of far. But one thing I will add, so one of my friends from home, I share my location with her, so somebody knows where I am at all times. But I'm driving in a foreign place and I'm driving 40 minutes away. So I go to the beach, had a great time at the beach. And so I am wanting to leave to go back to the resort. And so I've been using Google Maps the whole time, and I realized that I don't have service. And so I'm restarting my phone. And I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And I got a little anxious for like 5 seconds. But then I just decided, I saw this road where a lot of other cars were coming from. And so I just followed the cars, and I ran into a completely different beach. It was a bigger beach with more people. It had more amenities in terms of like bathrooms and snacks and stuff like that, but it was still a pretty small beach. And so instead of being anxious and going with those feelings that I had, I went to another beach and I got in the ocean and I sat outside for probably another hour and a half. And then I realized, your maps still isn't working. So what are you going to do? I remembered somewhat how I got there. So I just got in the car and drove in the direction where I came from. And eventually it came, Google Maps. I had service again. So I was able to get the directions back to the resort. But, in that moment, that's kind of scary. I'm like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where I am. I don't know any of these people. What am I going to do? And I didn't panic. I actually went and had more fun. And then I figured it out and I got back to the resort and I was fine. So it can be scary, maybe scary moments, but you'll be okay. And then the last myth is that it's a lot of work because you have to do everything yourself. So this is true. You're traveling on your own. So you have to plan out a whole trip. So number one, you can use a travel agent. They are a thing and they can make it very convenient for you and they can plan out everything. But for me, I wanted to, going back to what I said in the beginning, and just wanting to make decisions and plan things for myself. I wanted to plan it out myself. So I wanted to research the hotels and I wanted to figure out how to rent a car and I wanted to purchase the flight and I wanted to figure out all of the activities that I was going to do and the things that I wanted to get into while I was here. And so that was actually fun for me. So most of the trips that I have been on have been planned by other people. I haven't really had not that I didn't have a say, but I wasn't the person like booking things and all of that. And so it was kind of empowering, to do everything on my own. And I have no regrets. Like every place that I've wanted to go, I had a good time. The resort hotel situation that I picked, I love it. I'm so glad I decided to get to rent a car because I did the research. It's been great. So it may feel like it's a lot of work, but what's wrong with a lot of work, especially when you're going to be enjoying yourself in the end? So those are some myths that we can debunk because I have experienced it for myself. I have maybe like another half a day here and I'm going to get into some more things. But up until this point, I would recommend solo travel 10 out of 10, like highly recommend. So as a charge, I think you should do some things by yourself. And like I said before, this hasn't always been me. Like I haven't always wanted to do things on my own, but over time I noticed that I got more comfortable. So I think probably the first thing that I started to do by myself in college, Because I lived close to the beach, I would just drive to the beach and kind of sit on the beach by myself. Then I would go to the movies by myself, and people would be like, why would you do that? And my whole thing is, you're not talking. I feel like the movies is like a good first step, because you don't have to talk to anybody. You literally sit down and watch the movie, and then you get up and go home. So it's not any type of engagement. No one can see you. It's not a big deal. And then I started going out to eat by myself. And I think by me working, I would kind of go to lunch by myself sometimes and sit by myself, so it didn't feel as weird, because you're at work and you only have an hour, so you eat your food and go on about your business. But after that, like more recently, I take myself on solo dates, which I'm about to do. I'm about to celebrate. It's going to be kind of like my birthday dinner tonight, and so I'm taking myself to dinner. I purposely got dressed up, and that's what I'm going to do. So you can, it's baby steps. I know it's not as easy for everyone to do things on your own, but you can absolutely start small. And the more time that you spend with yourself, the more time you get to know yourself, the more time you get to love on yourself and appreciate yourself and understand what you want, what you need, what you desire, all of those things. So I'm charging you to figure out how you can take yourself out, spend some time with yourself, and ultimately work yourself up to solo travel. And it doesn't have to be international. If you live in Virginia, you can go to North Carolina on a solo trip. You can you can do a staycation in your same city. It doesn't have to be, something extreme to start off, but I do think that there are a lot of benefits. You just feel free, you feel empowered, you build your confidence. So there are so many benefits to doing things on your own. And you can always get with your family later, get with your friends later. You don't have to do everything by yourself, but there's some benefits to it. So that is the chair. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. It's not a TED Talk today. But anyway, let's move to our third segment, which is called The Beauty Secret. And today we just have a internal beauty secret. And I had therapy today. I'm not missing therapy just because I'm on vacation, and it was a great session as always. And so one of the things that we were talking about was generosity and being generous, and how generosity can improve your mental health. So I found a bunch of articles, but this one I really enjoyed reading. So generosity reduces stress, supports physical health, enhances one's sense of purpose, and naturally fights depression. And it's also shown to increase one's lifespan. Some other benefits of generosity. It promotes a social connection and improves relationships. And I'm sorry, I kind of skipped ahead. Let's define what generosity is. So generosity, the quality of being kind and understanding, the willingness to give others things that have value, and is often defined as an act of selflessness. So before talking to her, and her explaining how generosity can help us, I never really thought about it in that way. But then I started reading these articles, and I can definitely see how generosity can help improve your mental health. And generosity doesn't always have to be like giving someone a tangible thing, like an item. Generosity can be your time. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your space. If you have a home that, people can gather at and connect with each other. If you have a skill, you can be generous with providing your skill to other people. If you have an immense amount of knowledge about a specific topic, sharing your knowledge with the world is being generous. And I just really love that she brought that up, and it's something that I'm going to think more about, and I have to think more about it because I feel like I'm very generous with my time, and I'm very generous. And when I say with my time, like, I like to listen, right? So I know that people oftentimes have a lot of things that they need to get out of their system. And I don't mind being that person to allow people to share with, but in that, I also have to make sure that I'm setting boundaries with the generosity, because, sometimes if you know anything about people pleasing, you can overdo it. So that's something that I have to continue to process because, we just talked about it today, but it's something that I think is really important. So find some ways to be generous to not only your family or your friends and the people close to you, but be generous to strangers, people who you may not know. I know for a fact that, people are going through a lot. There's just a lot happening in the world. And so people can really use generosity. They can use your generosity. So that's the beauty secret, which means we've made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you have not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please give the video a like and share a comment. If you plan to solo travel, let me know in the comments. If you're listening to this in the audio version, I would appreciate you subscribing to whatever platform you use. And you can also give me a 5-star rating and let me know what you think about the podcast. I really appreciate your time and attention. We have made it to episode 8, which I am very, very proud of. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't heard it today, and even if you have, I love you. Take care and stay beautiful. See you next time.